Oxygen saw some positive news today, jumping over 25% from its announcement. Where can this stock go in next week's trade? But before we get into that, there's the closing bell, guys, with the SPX closing down 15 points. When we zoom out on the week and take a look where we stand, we're finishing negative on the week. You can just see we expected 72 points in the SPX this week. We were negative Monday, negative Tuesday. We shortly got positive on Wednesday and slightly on Thursday. Finished negative. We bounced off the lower edge and we kind of sat there all of today. You can see we hit the 1.5 standard deviation level, only to bounce off that. However, we're closing outside of 72 points. So it was an inefficient week. Now, I'll come back to the SPX to discuss next week's move, but when we take a look at the S&P on a daily, taking a look at these futures, they are turning red here in the final minutes of trade with the volume accelerating. Just seeing how these futures just dumped. They're getting some bounce right here, but they're slightly above 3,800. Now, it's going to come largely down to what the Nasdaq wants to do next week. And taking a look at the Nasdaq, it's up 0.6%. However, it's sitting right around a 2 sigma move on the week. You can just see the Nasdaq took a sizable dump in this final 10 minutes of trade, and it's sitting right around the 2 standard deviation on the week. Now, when we compare the Nasdaq to our big five, the big five are stocks that are Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Facebook. These guys are big. And today, they combined up 0.87%. So you can see it's slightly beating the Nasdaq, and it was somewhat holding the S&Ps together, but the S&Ps are now down 18 points, which tells us they're selling in other sectors of this marketplace. Now, when we browse some of our sectors today, the best sector on the board was the XLK, the technology sector. They were up 0.45%. However, you can see the inflow of volume coming in. They were ever so slightly up. They were up over 1.5%. However, a lot of this happened in the final minutes of trade. For the most part, that's the only sector up. We even see software stocks going negative. We see financials down almost 2%, and the energy sector close to 2.5%. So after two sectors that have been very hot in the back-to-back days, you can just see in the energy and the financials, seeing some increased selling. Is that money going to rotate out and into technology, into our safe haven stocks like the Googles, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, or would that market just go to cash on the sidelines? Just see these sectors split. You see communication and consumer discretionary up. However, those are largely due to the Amazon, Facebook trades that boost these sectors. So they're a poor read. So really just technology was up today. That's going to be the key question in next week's trade. Do financials and energy keep selling off, or will it be up to technology to save this marketplace? So with most of our indexes mixed and only technology being the only sector up, how did the bonds break down? And taking a look at the 30-year bond, they're up 1.6%. Seeing some aggressive move. Taking a look at it intraday, it's gone parabolic here in the final minutes of trade. So somebody must know something here, and the bonds are bidding high. We take a look at the TNX. It's sitting at 1.46% yield on the 10-year, and it was down today about 3.8%. When we take a look at our futures, today the VIX futures were down 4.6%. We take a look at it intraday. It's seeing a slight bid, but not as much as you'd expect. Taking a look at the VVIX, it too was up, kind of came down, and it's just seeing a small bid. Overall, though, volatility is fairly elevated, sitting at a 124 in the VVIX, and going green here on this candle is still a high volatility. So how will that affect our SPX? Let's move on over and take a look at the expected move for next week. And when we take a look at the trade tab, we can see 7 days out will be next Friday. This options market is pricing in $119.33 in the SPX. That's a wider move from this week of 72. Let's draw these levels in and see where we stand for next week. And when we take a look at the SPX, 119 points up would take us to 39.30. 119 down would take us to 36.91. So the question becomes, are we going to continue to see selling? Will technology hold this marketplace together? Do the financials and energy turn it around? At 38.11, that's just simply where we closed today. So we'll see how it breaks down, but 119 points is a wide expected move. Let's take a look at the dollar index, see how the commodities broke down, and talk a little bit about Bitcoin. Taking a look at the dollar index, we're seeing a nice pop today, up over 0.86%. The dollar index is very close to a 91 handle. We camped around 90 for about 4 days, and now we're seeing a move higher. How does that affect our commodities? Well, crude oil today dumped over 3%, largely hurting the XLE sector. I mentioned yesterday the doji. Are we going to see more selling in crude? How low does it go until it finds buyers? As for gold, today gold was down over 2.5%, dumping $45 to the low 1700s, sitting at 1729. Gold is dumping with a lot of volume. Now, I didn't really see this move coming, but when there's Bitcoin on the block, I can kind of see why gold is dumping. And when we take a look at Bitcoin, today Bitcoin is down 6%, still falling here at 46,300. I have some Fibonacci's up. You can see we're breaking this 38% Fibonacci. For the most part, I think if Bitcoin can hold 45,000 over the weekend, that would be a great sign for Bitcoin going forward. However, these are some pivotal Fibonacci levels. You can just see the 42.4, the 40,000, even 45,000 on a couple of my other charts are pretty significant. So holding that 44, 45 would be a win in my eyes. There you have it for the stock market breakdown. Now, we have a stimulus vote either today or tomorrow, but that's in the House. If it gets passed, it still has to go through the Senate. So we could be looking at well into March until a deal actually gets finalized. Next week, with over 100 points in the SPX of expected move, it's going to be a volatile week. Will we see money rotated out of the financials and energy into the safe haven names like the Googles, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebooks? Or will the financials and energy find a floor and go sideways? That's going to be the key component in next week's trade, as well as what the bonds want to do. But let's move on over and take a look at Ocugen, one of the top trending tickers on the day today. Now, today, Ocugen finished up 36% with a market cap of about $2 billion. On a year to date, this stock is up 256%. Now, what does Ocugen do? Well, Ocugen is a biotech company that primarily focuses on treating rare conditions involving blindness. So why is this stock up today? When we take a look at it intraday, it saw a nice pop around noon. That was largely due to Brazil buying 20 million COVID vaccines from an Indian firm that specializes in these vaccines. Ocugen actually has a partner deal with this company, and they are commercializing the vaccine Covaxin in the US. So spiking off this report, you can just see we surged higher. A lot of day trading going on in this stock. However, it has a high implied volatility of 327%. Now, when we throw it on the expected move, what is the options market pricing in on this thing for next week? Well, if it wants to keep going higher, look for 14.16 to play some resistance. So if we do hit that level, that's a great profit-taking level, around $14. Don't get greedy here. However, if we do see some selling, look for 7.74 to play a nice bounce. If this stock does fall, with people day trading it down on Monday, look for that 7.75, call it $8 to play some support. Otherwise, if we break those levels, who knows where this stock can go. You just break it out another standard deviation, which it looks like the standard deviation for next week is roughly about $3.30. So if we do break 770, take another 3 from the top of that, you're looking at well into the 4s. But for the most part, 774 and 1416 are the levels to look out for. There you have it for the top trending stock, Ocugen. Now, going into next week, where do you see this stock going? And if you've watched this far, guys, I really appreciate it if you hit the thumbs up button. It means a lot when you guys are liking my videos. And if you're watching me for the first time, I do these breakdowns every single day. Show some love and hit that subscribe button. It really means a lot to me. But other than that, have any comments, questions, feedback, leave it down below and I'll get back to you. But on that note, I will see you in next week's session. Have a great weekend, guys. Take care. Peace.